FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and today is April 27th, 2020. This amazing month is almost behind us. Hopefully, the economies of the world and the country especially are going to start opening up again soon. I'm optimistic. Georgia is the test case. It is the petri dish, and it might just expose everything that's happened up to now for what it is, but I'll let you make that decision. What do you think about the shutdown? Was it justified? Is it the right move? Was it the right move? Or perhaps not? Why don't you email me and let me know your opinion? The email address is kl@kerrylutz.com, kl@kerrylutz.com. Well, you know that the epidemic, the pandemic, is having a profound impact upon employment. You know that over the past month, 22 million people have lost their jobs. Most of them have been put on furlough. A certain portion of them who work for smaller businesses who have folded their, closed their doors, folded, they're not going to rejoin the labor force so quickly. But what are the legal issues involved here? For that, we've got on Jonathan Bell, a New York attorney, expert in labor and employment law. And Jonathan, it's great to have you back on the show. So we're looking at mass unemployment. Hopefully it's not going to increase that much more. We'll reopen before it has a chance to. But what are you seeing here in terms of trends, litigation, and in terms of people going back to their old jobs?
Sure. Well, I'm getting a lot of calls, as you can imagine, as a labor and employment attorney here in New York, which was obviously hit very, very hard. The majority of the calls have to do with either unemployment, the process trying to get through. Are they entitled to unemployment? And also get a lot of calls involving those PPP SBA loans. Mm-hmm. That's a big one, and that's taking a lot of time as well. Either people who are applying and can't get the loan, or people who have actually gotten the loan and now concerned about spending it correctly to make sure that those loans get converted into grants so they don't have to pay it back.
Right. So there's a big issue there, though, about these PPP loans. They've now started phase 2, but it looked like there was a lot of favoritism. You saw publicly traded companies getting these loans like CarMax. They applied from all of their individual locations because they were all separately incorporated and were able to get $80 million out of the system. Now it looks like there's going to be clawbacks. You saw Shake Shack, you saw a whole bunch of different restaurant chains. What's your take on how this is going to shake out?
Well, now that for the second time around, it looks like they've put more restrictions and made the certification a little bit stronger as far as certifying getting the loans, not have, the requirements being not having access to other phones or being publicly traded, public companies. And also, like you said, there was a lot of pressure for things like Shake Shack and Ruth Chris to give the money back. Unfortunately, that money can't even be reutilized in the new PPP program, from what I understand, which is unfortunate. Also, with the second go around, apparently what they're doing is they're requiring at least $60 billion to go to small community banks and lenders, getting small businesses, real small businesses, opportunities to get the loans versus going to your traditional big banks like Chase and Citibank.
Yeah, it's interesting because they all just what the banks did, in my estimation. You correct me if I'm wrong, Jonathan, but what they did was they looked at their lending customers, the small businesses and larger businesses that could be carved up, and said, we want to get these people the loans first because it's going to help ensure that our loans, lines of credit, etc., will get paid off faster or at all. So obviously you get $10 million in a small business and it's going to make it a lot more solvent, stable. So effectively, by favoring their larger customers and customers with lending relationships, A, they violated the law because that was specifically in there. They weren't supposed to play favorites. And B, it became effectively a partial backdoor bailout of the banks. Do I have that right?
You do. I mean, when these loans are initially given to you, they are given as loans. They're not given as grants. So I guess banks were concerned about people's ability to pay it back. So it was for them, they looked at giving it to those individuals or companies for good reason. They already did the due diligence on them because they already have a line of credit or they're big business. They want to make sure they stay in favorable graces to them. But now they're the subject of a lawsuit. There's a few lawsuits that have now been started against some of the big banks due to this favoritism. It's supposed to be on a first come, first served basis. So I think we're going to see a lot less of that because, number one, I think that the big companies who have other capital to go for are just not going to apply just because of this public shaming element. And number two, I just think that because of these new provisions and kind of identifying who has to get it and the stronger certification, it's going to allow these funds to go mostly to the people who really need it.
Yeah, I mean, that was really quite enraging and disgusting that the small businesses, the job generator of the economy, got totally screwed and taken advantage of here. Another thing was the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, where originally you're supposed to get $10,000, and then they said, no, $1,000 per employee. And that's another thing that really, really was just kind of outrageous, wasn't it?
Yeah, they make promises and then they go back on their promises, which is kind of difficult for people who are trying to survive. I'll tell you, a big problem with these PPP loans for, let's say restaurants or gyms or tattoo parlors, those places are mandated to be closed. So, they're applying for the PPP loan to get some relief and pay their employees. But, now they're going to have to if they get the loan, they have to pay their employees within 8 weeks for it to be forgiven to a grant. So what good is that going to do them if they're paying them to basically sit at home? What they should have done is they should have been able to apply and then have some discretion for when the lender provides it to them to start the 8-week period. But if you have no discretion on the 8-week period, then it's really all for nothing. They don't get any benefit, and they're still in the same place as they were when the mandates open up, and they're now allowed to take customers.
Yep, I could not agree with you more. This is, look, the government really is responsible for this mess because whether you agree with the policy of the lockdown or not, they forced it on everyone. And as a result, and who's to say, I find it very insulting. What's a vital business? To me, my business is vital. To you, your business is vital. Who is the government to say it's not vital? If we weren't vital, we wouldn't be in business, right?
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Lumina Gold, ticker symbol LUM on the Toronto Venture and LMGDF on the OTC, is yet another of legendary mining investor Ross Beaty's Lumina Group. It's advancing the largest primary gold deposit in Ecuador. The resource is estimated to contain 16.7 million ounces of gold and 2.2 billion pounds of copper. At just $7 US per ounce gold equivalent, it trades at an incredible 13% of its net present value. More good news is on the way with an updated PEA study expected in Q2 of 2020. It has unparalleled infrastructure. There's grid power to camp with plentiful, inexpensive hydropower available. It's close to 2 ports and is just 8 kilometers from a paved highway. Water is plentiful. It's at low elevation, and the closest community, which is very supportive of Lumina's effort, is just a 7-kilometer ride. With all this going for it, it's likely to follow the typical Ross Beaty formula, which means big returns to shareholders. Find out more and sign up for notifications at luminagold.com. That's Lumina, Lumina gold.com.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Sure. I agree with you. I mean, listen, I understand, We're dealing with people's lives and safety. I feel like I'm very fortunate as being an attorney. I did not lay off my staff. I did not decrease their salaries. All my employees are working from home. State courts are closed, so that slows down things, but federal courts are still open, and they're using technology and phone conferences as opposed to the regular in-person conferences. So I consider myself lucky. There are people that are not as lucky as me, and they were essentially paycheck to paycheck, doing their best to pay their staff, employees themselves, and now they're forced to be laid off and deal with unemployment. Unemployment hasn't been that great with getting back to people and getting them approved in a timely manner. So there are some people that are really suffering out there. It's just it's a tough time for this country. So hopefully we'll be ready to go back and get back to work as soon as possible and somehow deal with this crisis that really we don't have any clear answers as to when it's going to end and how it's going to end.
Yeah, we really don't. But it feels like it's getting closer to the end. I know in New York, there's too few cases. In New York City, it's not even doubling anymore. Yeah, the number is going up, but the number of cases is not going to double in the foreseeable future for at least a couple of months. And that gives them a lot more time to basically get a handle on the people they are treating. But talking about unemployment, the systems around the country were never set up to actually handle like a couple of million cases in 3-4 week time period. Like in Florida, we got 700,000 claims in a month, and the system seized up and shut down. Florida's been the slowest in the country to get it back together. What is going on in the rest of the country?
Well, I mean, I could speak to New York. It seems like things are moving a lot faster within the last week and a half. I think they hired a lot of people. They kind of streamlined the application process. They got Google involved. I mean, they're dealing with a lot of federal money, increased volume, and kind of like it was a skeleton. The employees, obviously there weren't a lot of employees working there, so it's a skeleton crew is what I was looking for. But now they hired more people, and they're processing faster in New York. I did hear about Florida. I think it's only like less than 8% of the people actually receive their unemployment checks. The thing is, the federal government's giving them tons of money and letting the states disperse them, and the states aren't ready. They have antiquated systems. They're not ready for the independent contractors, gig workers, self-employed people who now could apply for unemployment as they weren't eligible before. So sometimes they're outwardly denying people that shouldn't be denied. It's a real mess state by state.
That's what Florida did. And I think they're up to about 17% they claim. Who knows? But point is, they were wholly inequipped for this. You can't really blame them for it because unemployment's been going down for the past 10 years to record lows. So rather than planning for a rainy day, they just cut back on the systems until, we had this happen, and they were totally unprepared for it. So looking ahead, we got like millions of companies that could potentially go out of business, a lot of big ones. And really, the bankruptcy courts aren't the proper place to handle a mass economic collapse, are they? We kind of need a legislative solution to this, don't you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's going to be no short-term solution. It's going to take a lot of time to dig out to this mess, and unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of people suffering. What I tell people is just constantly keep in touch with the news, look for other government benefits coming out to try to assist you during the situation. And, you have to have some patience, but you have to be persistent in applying for unemployment and trying to go through the process and making some calls, even if you know it's going to be a while before you get through. Just be ready and get it done.
Yeah, makes complete sense. And Jonathan, we really appreciate you coming on and educating us on these really important topics. Can you tell us how we find you on the web and connect with you?
Sure. Any questions anybody has, you can always feel free to reach me at 855-JOHN-BELL, JONBELL. Website is BELLLG.com. And on my Facebook page, I'm constantly putting on free advice videos, helping people with unemployment, with these PPP loans, the EIDL loans, going over and summarizing in layman's terms news that's constantly coming out just to try to assist people as best as I can during this tough time.
All right. Hey, we really appreciate you coming on. Any questions, your feelings about what's going on here with the employment situation. Really do want to hear from you. Email us, kl@kerrylutz.com, Twitter feed @KerryLutz, Facebook page is Financial Survival Network. Of course, our website is financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Jonathan, thanks so much for coming on. We'll talk to you again soon.
Really appreciate you having me on. Thanks a lot.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.